What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. We're here live in Miami at the GoBundance Global Conference. It's been a lot of fun. We got one of our sponsors sitting next to me, Gregory Shindler. He's the CEO of RMI International, the Regenerative Medicine Institute. We're going to dive into stem cell research, his backstory, everything else. Gregory, welcome.
Awesome. Sorry. Happy to be here, Jamie.
You're so happy. You can't even get the words
I can't
out.
even speak. Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's go back. Let's start with a little bit about you, just because folks might not know who you are. I know your company was represented at a Dallas event that we did. Maybe not you, but Dr. Giampapa, was it?
Correct.
Yep. But give us a little bit about you. What's your background?
So I'm from Houston, Texas, born and raised there, and wandered around a little bit, New York and California, trying to find my way and doing some schooling. And started out life in technology. This is back in the .com boom, right? My wife was in it. I was in it. It was a great time to be in it. Companies were going public, and we thought we were super smart. We didn't realize we were just, super fortunate and lucky.
This is late 90s, I'm going to assume.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah,
got you.
Leading up to the big bust. And when that all fell apart, we were looking around to say, okay, what's next? And how do we reinvent ourselves? And so I went in a different direction and went into corporate America and started working for some of the Fortune 500s and working my way up the ladder and to the management role. And I'm a sales guy, right? I was always been in the sales organization and became a global sales manager. And I thought, wow, this is what I really want to do, until it wasn't, right? I came home one day, my wife, she said, what's the matter? And I said, I don't feel like I'm able to do my job anymore. I'm always managing up. I'm in endless meetings, and it just doesn't seem to be fulfilling. And she said, you haven't figured this out yet, have you? And I said, what's that? And she said, that's not what you do anymore. This is what you do now. This is what you thought you wanted. You got it. Yeah. And, can I be honest with you? And I said, of course. And she said, you're miserable. I said, is it that bad? And she said, it really is. So I got approached by a couple of buddies of mine, entrepreneurs who'd been really successful, and they said, look, we need someone with your skill set. We're launching this new business in healthcare, and we want you to come work with us. And I walked in and I told my wife about it, and without blinking, she said, do it. Do it today. And so I thought, well, I'll prepare a resignation letter. I'll think about it. I'll do all that stuff. And she's like, no. Today.
Wow.
It's the scariest call I had made as an adult. Now we're 4 kids into this.
I was going to ask you, age, give me kind of life.
Okay, yeah, let's go back there. Sorry.
No.
So I've got a daughter who's 31, lives in California, works in the entertainment industry and for movies, doing graphic design stuff. And then I have 3 sons. One is 23 years old. He's a musician. And then I have a high schooler, a senior, and a junior in high school.
Okay.
So 1 girl, 3 boys. I've been married 25 years to my wife. And
when was this? What year or so? Was this recent? When your wife said, hey, you're miserable? And
no, this was going back about 5-6 years ago.
So we're talking what are we in 2022? So like
2017,
15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So you hit rock bottom. Your wife said, and you've got 3 kids at home at this point.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And was your wife working at that point?
No, she was not.
So you're the income.
I'm the income.
And she's seeing misery in you. What was it that she say? Like what it was? Could you feel it, or did you think you were containing it and it wasn't outwardly there?
I think we always have a little bit of, you don't ever really admit to yourself how bad it really is, right? Sure. And look, I'm a grinder. I'm a guy who gets up and goes out every day and does what he has to do, and I support my family, and I'm a glass half full guy. I'll be happy at an insurance convention, right? I mean, I'm going to find a way to make it work out, but. It was a lot of travel. It was a lot of time away. And it was just, I don't like the politics sometimes that you have to do in corporate America. Yeah. It's not always awesome. No, right? Some guys are really cut out for it and they're good at it.
Sure.
And I wasn't one of them. If you ask me what I think, I'm going to tell you. Right? I'm going to be honest about it. And that's not always,
it's not welcome.
It's not always welcome.
No, it's buy-in. We just listened to Jeff Hoffman speak. If for those that don't know him, he's been a prior episode. I forget what number. Otherwise, you can go look it up. But Priceline founder and everything else, and he talked about most of us that work in that culture are there to work for a boss, and his role he always felt was that he worked for them. And that's a very dumbed down version of the depth that he went to on it. But to your point, it's indoctrination, it's enrollment, it's do this. Here's our culture. Here's our mission. You do that, so I get my boat. That's essentially what the way he described it. And so, yeah, I completely get that. You can't make your point. How long were you in that space, mentally, emotionally, where, like, when did you realize it, and how long before you actually decided to exit?
Yeah, I think if I'm being honest, it was probably the last 2 or 3 years,
Okay.
right? Where it was that way. And so I literally picked up the phone, called my boss, because I really did like him. He had been good to me. And I said, you're going to get a letter here and an email in a minute with my resignation. But I wanted to let you know, first and foremost, you've been great to me, but I'm going to go in a different direction. And he said, anything I can do to try to talk you out of it? And I said, no, it's not about that. I'm not negotiating for more money or anything like that. I've just really decided to go in a new direction and chase the entrepreneurial spirit that was burning in there, deep and bright anyway.
Sure.
So I did, and hung the phone up and felt a wave of terror and then relief, right? Like, okay, I'm in this now, right? You're going to eat what you kill.
Yeah.
So we started that. And we grew this business. It was a medical distributorship, and we were basically helping doctors diagnose and treat patients faster, right?
Yeah.
And the winds of fortune in healthcare can shift on you pretty quickly as an entrepreneur because regulations can change,
that makes
right?
sense.
And we were building our business. We grew it to about 35, 36 reps in 16 states, and things were going pretty well. And I was looking for a way to, grow the revenue, either add more people or maybe add products to your portfolio. So I went that route. And I started looking into biologics, right? Stem cells, exosomes, Wharton's jelly, you name it. These were things that 5 years ago, most people hadn't even heard of yet, right? Very specialized. And I went to a few conferences and I was hooked. I didn't know a lot about what I was hearing about, but I knew that it felt right to me, and it felt like there was something there, that this could have a future to it. Yeah. So I started studying it, and it didn't take long. You start looking, you see that the CAGR on these are double digits, like 18 to 22, 23%, depending on which study you believe. Sure. And I thought, wow, if I can be a part of any market that's growing at that kind of CAGR, then I'm interested. Sure. So we cobbled together a portfolio of these products and started introducing it to the doctors that we were already selling things to. And it was an interesting learning curve there because the traditional medicine model isn't really set up for new innovation that comes outside of the big pharma channels or some of the more traditional channels, right? Doctors are not all doctors are really comfortable in that cash pay conversation with patients. And they're pretty conservative as a group. Because they have to be. The stakes are high. These are patients' lives, right? Yep. So they have to be. And we messed around with that for about a year and had some success. And I got fortunate along the way. I was able to do a couple of studies with major universities, with athletes and things like that. And I got a pedigree pretty fast. I jumped a few steps, if I'm being honest. Sure. But it was really quickly apparent that this distribution model with this was not going to work. So we opened up, we're entrepreneurs now, right? Yeah. So we opened up our own clinics and we were doing orthopedics. And I leveraged my success with these universities and some of the things we had done there and started treating patients, and we started getting really good outcomes. And we opened up clinics in Oklahoma and in Texas, and we were treating patients and things were going really well. And then the pandemic hits. So during the pandemic, we all had a chance to take a step back, or we were forced to take a step back and work on the business, things that we really should have the discipline to do sometimes, but as small business owners, you're in the business, right? 100%. And we know those things. Yep. Intellectually, we know, we need to take time to work on our business, but sometimes it's hard, right? To create that discipline and that structure. 100%. But the pandemic gave us a really good opportunity because things were shutting down and storefronts were closed. And that's when I met Dr. Giampapa, and he has a reputation and as sort of the pioneer of cellular aging research. He'd spent about 20 years researching this and come up with some really cool science and technology, but the means to validate it hadn't quite been there yet. The science, the testing measures, some objectivity in the data. Sure. And that caught up in the last several years. For example, with epigenetics, we're able to measure 900,000 markers on the human genome. Wow. And tell which genes are active or inactive at any given point in time, dynamic. data coming back to us. And that was really interesting and fascinating to me. So together we built a team and an organization, and we opened up our business in San Jose, Costa Rica.
Why there?
Costa Rica is an interesting place for a lot of reasons. The first is it's beautiful.
Sure.
It's not very far.
True.
It's pretty easy to get to.
Yeah.
But it has a 97% literacy rate. An interesting thing about Costa Rica is they got rid of their army in the 50s, and they funneled all that money that they had been spending on their military into education. So there's a lot of advanced degrees. There's a lot of professionally degreed people coming out of Costa Rica because they all have access to it.
Sure.
It's a blue zone. Are you familiar with the blue zones?
I'm not.
So Dan Buettner coined it. There are 5 blue zones in the world, and Costa Rica is one of them. And the idea is that people live longer, they're healthier, and there's 10 criteria that make some place a blue zone. And it's supposed to be, the ideal environment, in terms of longevity and health and things like that. And Costa Rica is one of those designations. And then the environment to be able to go down and do good science and good research and good work is really is good in Costa Rica. It's a little bit more favorable than it is in the States.
Well, that's what I was going to get at that. I want to ask you about blue zone, and this might be my ignorance. Excuse me, I'm knocking the mic around here, but this might be my ignorance on this space. But why is Costa, like the blue zone? I get that they live longer, these 10 different markers, but why isn't it just opened up in Houston? Is there controversy around this type of work in the United States that you have to do it in another country? Like why Costa Rica, not just in your backyard?
So stem cells, there's always been controversy.
Well, I know of a
cells.
few, and I know there are, but I mean, I don't know if is it not possible to set up shop in the United States?
Yeah, so the FDA is very strict about what you can do with stem cells, and under an IND, investigative new drug designation, or an FDA approved research path, you can do stem cell work, right? But it's typically very limited into whatever it is they're chasing for that particular disease or condition or whatever it is that they've formed that research study for. But it is illegal to take stem cells and give them back systemically or intravenously in the United States.
Why is that? Let's start there for 1 second. I remember hearing things about, aborted fetuses and umbilical cord. I mean, all this news, right? But the news has headlines. What's the real truth? Like, why is it illegal?
Man, you're going to bring the cynic out in me now,
Hit
Jamie.
me. Yeah,
all right,
let's do it.
So, I used to think it was cynical. Now I just think maybe it's true. Is the U.S. medicine model is set up for diagnosing and treating symptoms.
Oh, amen. Yes.
Right? Doctors go to med school and they learn to diagnose and treat symptoms.
Yeah.
And then big pharma supplies the medications to address those symptoms.
Like
right?
vaccines. Yeah, sure. No, I'm just
right?
Continue,
We could
yes.
go off. Yeah, I could take a turn. An analogy that I've heard used is it's like putting duct tape on the check engine light.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not actually fixing the underlying root cause. We just want you to feel better, not necessarily always get better. And I don't want to come off like I'm, knocking and trashing big pharma and FDA because we need those regulations for a lot of and they do a lot of good,
Sure.
right? In the U.S., you have an acute injury. It's one of the best places in the world to be. But for chronic disease, not so much, right? I think the last stat I saw, we were like 37th in the world in the overall health of our citizens, and we outspend by a mile a lot of other countries, right? Yeah. So if we were the CEOs of the U.S. healthcare system and we had to stand up in front of the board with that record, it probably wouldn't be a very fun meeting, right? Correct. We probably wouldn't enjoy it. We probably wouldn't be still the CEOs. But so the environment, the medicine, the traditional model for medicine in Western, certainly in America, it just doesn't encourage this type of innovation. And whether you think it's because of big pharma or whatever you think, there are other countries around the world that just have a better view on it in terms of what it can do. We've seen a lot of good come from it, right? There was a period of time in the U.S. where they were really trying to encourage the use of it and new technologies and to treat different illnesses and conditions. But like in a lot of free market economies, some people were a little less than responsible with that freedom.
Yeah.
And so they shut that down in June of last year and really got tighter on the use of stem cells and stem cell derivatives, products like amniotic fluid, Wharton's jelly, exosomes. And there's a lot of great companies and labs in the States doing really, really good work, but they're following the traditional FDA path and doing it the right way, right? And there's probably going to be some great benefit. I know of one that I read about the other day that has a treatment with exosomes for ARDS. Which is it's basically a lung condition due to long COVID.
Oh, okay, got it.
And it's actually what it turns out can kill people, right? It's what people were dying from when the lungs got impacted. And so there's a lot of promise with that. And I think they're in a phase 2 or phase 3 FDA study.
Gotcha.
So that's great and that's beneficial, but it's extremely expensive. It's a long process. And not everybody can afford to do it or has the resources to be able to follow that traditional path. So countries like Costa Rica, we're a fully licensed clinic in Costa Rica under the Ministry of Health. But it took 7 years to get there.
Wow.
It took a long time to get there to prove the safety and efficacy of what you're doing. So it's, if you can and if you're committed to it, then the path is there.
Is stem cell regenerative therapy, all of this, is it the magic pill? I mean, it feels like, is it infallible, I guess? I know nothing probably is, but
no.
So walk me through it. So, okay, I'm somebody who has a chronic condition, a back pain, or I'm assuming like a fibromyalgia, anything like that would be chronic. Is that what stem cell regeneration would help with, or no?
So fibro would be considered an autoimmune disease, but like your back pain, for example.
Sure,
like lupus, Lyme, fibro, RA, things like that. They are categorized in autoimmune, and we've seen tremendous benefit for autoimmune patients.
With stem cell regenerative therapy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. But at this, and chronic illnesses, osteoarthritis or chronic back pain or fatigue and things like that, we've seen some fantastic results as well. But I stop short of saying it's a magic pill. I really do. There's, it's a puzzle piece, right? We have to put this piece. The human body is the most complex operating system ever to be invented, right? And I think Bill Gates even said that. It's far more complex than anything that we've ever created from a software platform. So it stands to reason that there's a lot of moving parts in this thing, right? And stem cells are one component of it. Our focus is aging and longevity.
Okay.
And it's really easy to think about. If you think about, all of us are born with a finite stem cell pool, right? Think of it like a tank of gas in a car, but with no gas cap.
Yep.
Right? The easier you are on that car, the further you're going to get, right? You're going to go get more mileage out of it. If you stomp on it and you drive it hard and you don't change your oil and stuff, it's not going to last very long.
That's true.
Right? Well, our stem cell pool is very similar. And it's in a state of decline from the moment we're born until the moment we die. Things like trauma, disease, use up our reparative function faster, call stem cells to the area to repair. So the idea is we want to try to top off the tank, if you will, or mitigate stem cell exhaustion. And we can do that today, right? But again, it's one piece of the puzzle. It turns out that the 3 main stem cell types, there are more, but the 3 primary stem cells that we have in our bodies support our musculoskeletal, our immune, and our vascular functions, right? 3 main systems of the human body, very important. One of them gets a lot of attention. That's a mesenchymal stem cell. That's because we use them a lot in orthopedics, and it's considered the low-hanging fruit. Okay. But the other 2 types, endothelial progenitors and hematopoetics, have really big functions as well. And so what we've been able to do now is harness the ability to be able to collect those stem cells and give them back to patients.
How do you do that? What does that look like? So I was going to ask that. How do you harvest stem cells? So if I'm saying, hey, I've got a chronic condition, or I'm looking to extend my life, right? I want to have I want to refill the cup, like you said, with stem cells that I'm losing. How do you get them? Are they synthetic? Are you harvesting them from me? Is it from somebody else with a similar blood type? Like I know nothing about this.
No. So it's a great question. So if you're going to harvest a mesenchymal stem cell from an adult, there are 2 places: adipose fat and bone marrow aspirate. So they go in through the iliac crest and bone marrow, or basically think of liposuction to harvest adipose fat stem cells in an adult. We have umbilical cord stem cells, right, which are adult stem cells, and that's a big misconception out there.
Yeah.
People heard of aborted fetuses and things like that.
Right.
Those are embryonic stem cells. They are not used. They're unpredictable, and you can't really control what they're going to become.
Sure.
So you don't use them in stem cell therapies and therapeutics. In some research labs around the world, they're still messing with those kinds of things. But an umbilical cord stem cell is an adult stem cell from the mother to the child. But they don't contain any antigens, basically, so that if you give them to another person, their bodies are not going to reject them.
Gotcha.
Right? And so that's a great source for stem cells, mesenchymal stem cells are what those are, and they're great for systemic inflammation. So if you give someone 100 million stem cells intravenously, you're going to help lower their inflammation. And in the case of autoimmune and diseases and things like that, we don't entirely know what the mechanism is and why it works, but there's enough anecdotal evidence to show that it is working.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So and it gets a little confusing pretty quickly.
No,
right?
that was really good, but continue, please. Yeah.
But the idea, when you're from an aging and a longevity standpoint, is you're running out of all three of those stem cell types.
Yeah.
And then to up the ante a little bit, as we get older, I'm 55, so I'm starting to produce something called senescent cells. We call them zombie cells. And think of it like you're super healthy, you're eating right, you're clean, you're working out, you're doing all the right things, but your best friend is a smoker and just has really bad lifestyle habits, and you're with him 24/7, and he's blowing smoke on you and everything else. That's like a senescent cell in the body. Right, it's harmful. It releases these inflammatory cytokines and other components, and they basically impact the young healthy cells, the good healthy cells in our bodies in a negative way. And the older we get, the more of them that are produced in our bodies.
Sure.
So we want to get rid of the senescent cells. We want to add to the depleted stem cells that we have over time as we start to age. And those are just a couple of the components of the aging process. But I don't want to get out of here without saying this. Lifestyle is a big deal.
Sure.
You got to sleep well. You got to eat right. You got to exercise. And that is a big, big piece of the battle, right?
That's all the other puzzle pieces,
that's
right?
The puzzle pieces. Yeah. That's why I tell everybody this is not a magic pill. This is biology, and this is...
But there's potential. And one question on the harvesting part, because I think of harvesting grow. So, and again, my ignorance, you extract stem cells. So let's say I was going in to have regenerative stem cell therapy, if I'm even saying that correctly. Would you extract from my fat, multiply them, and then re-inject, or are they coming from...
You can. It's done that way. Not the way we do it was we do it through blood collection. We do it through a process called apheresis. It was actually borrowed from cancer. So when they're trying to reboot people's immune function...
Sure. Yep.
With stem cells, they'll use apheresis as the collection technique. And so we don't have to use your stem cell, your adipose fat, or go into your bone marrow, like a tap into your bone marrow. Yep. We actually use a mobilization agent that releases billions of stem cells from your bone marrow. And then we hook you into an IV in each arm, and almost like an oil change, we collect those recently released stem cells, all three types that I mentioned. Yep. From your bloodstream into a collection, and then we prepare them, and they go into cryopreservation, where we will have billions for you to use over the next 30, 40, 50 years.
And then what do I do? Every year do I come back for or every 18 months? What does it look like?
So, yearly is not a bad protocol, but everybody's different, right? You could have some other underlying conditions that might require you to come down more frequently.
Sure.
Or every 2 years or something, but on average, about every year.
Okay. What does 10 years, 20 years, 30 years look like? Like, I mean, does stem cell, does regenerative therapy, is it something that attacks cancer? Is it, you mentioned about autoimmune, so things like AIDS or whatever. I mean, is there potential in this space? Like is it the, not the magic pill, but is it the thing that is the most promising in terms of attacking some of these other killers?
I don't know if it's the most promising, but there's certainly there's a lot of research around it, right? That they're doing. And I don't know what the next 10, 20 years is, but here's some statistics. Our knowledge in this space is doubling about every 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
Right? And so if you think about it from a longevity standpoint, nobody wants to live to 100 or 120 if you're in poor health, right? So, aging is defined as the functional decline of most living organisms over a period of time.
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
That functional decline part is the interesting part. That's the part we needed to focus on. We've always considered the time component to it.
Yeah.
But if we can slow the functional decline, meaning our cognition, our mobility, the way we move and think and be able to get around in life, then that's huge. That's a win. Imagine if you could extend it just a decade.
Sure.
Right? That's a big, big win. And we're pretty comfortable now in that we believe that we can do that. And when you start talking about things like cancer and autoimmune, I think there's a ways to go. And there's a lot of people doing research on that all the time. And I do think stem cells will play a component. Here's an example. Cellular reprogramming or restoration, right? Where you're able to take someone's older stem cells, say out of an 80-year-old patient, and reprogram them or restore them epigenetically to like 30-year-old versions of themselves, give them back to the patient, and they will go back into the bone marrow and begin making copies of their younger selves. We can do that today. That's available today. And there's new techniques on how to do that I've seen recently in some of the labs that are super promising. And I think that those techniques will probably play a role in how we start to look at cancer and some of the more difficult diseases to tackle.
Very interesting. I'm curious where resistance might come from. Actually, let me go with this first. What is right now the projection? You said about a decade that can extend life. Again, all the variables, and not like you get the injection, you just got 10 years, but lifestyle, everything that you mentioned. But where is it now? And I mean, is there, if you and other guys geeking out on this stuff are sitting around a conference table talking about, what stem cell the longevity can be with, you're doubling your knowledge every 3 to 4 months. Like as you go along, are we talking about 200-year-old humans? What does this look like in the next?
You won't get me to say that. There are people that believe that,
okay.
And there are people that believe 150, the first person that will live to 150 has been born.
Interesting.
I need to be able to look you in the eye and say, Jamie, I think we can go an extra decade or two of enhanced youthful function and quality of life and lifespan, and then tell you why. And here's some data that back that up, right?
Sure.
I got to stay there. The scientists and the researchers and the guys who are not really speaking about it from a business standpoint, but more from the science component, they will tell you that, 150 is within reach. 120 is, I talked to some life insurance guys the other day, and they're already running actuarial tables out to 120 right now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think we're getting there, but I like to try to be a little bit couched and responsible about how I say that from the standpoint of I want to set expectations and I want to be able to have some degree of data and science to back it up. And today I feel comfortable with adding an extra decade or two. Look, the average human lifespan in the U.S. is 80 years. And I was told recently that it actually regressed to 78.
With COVID, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that helped. And the opioid crisis kind of impacted that too. So to be fair.
Sure.
But let's call it 80. 82 for women, 78 for men. I'm 55. If you plot that out, in a row of boxes and put X's in every one of them that you've lived.
Yeah, it's not much left.
It's it's sobering and a little bit depressing, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that we can turn back our chronological age, really it's our biological age, and put a gap between that and our chronological age. For example, with epigenetics right now, that's what they're doing. So they're saying, I'm going to look at how you're methylating DNA. And we're going to compare this against a group of people in this database that are like you. And we can tell you that if you're 55 chronologically, you're 47 biologically, meaning how genes are being expressed and what DNA methylation looks like in you on that given day, right? And we can test it again in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months or 12 and see something maybe totally different.
Sure.
For better or for worse,
That's
right?
Crazy. Yeah.
And so people are starting to use these models, these epigenetic clocks and these models as a yardstick, as a measurement tool to say, all right, Jamie's getting older or younger. He's accelerating his aging process or he's slowing it in epigenetically even reversing it. And today that's pretty exciting. because that technology has been around a while, but it hadn't necessarily been that reliable. And I think that has something to do with the data set, right?
Yeah. Where are the critics on that? Like, who are the critics on that, I should say? Like, I imagine you face some resistance from religious groups potentially. Maybe not. Maybe there's something governmentally. I'm not sure. You mentioned insurance. I wondered about that. Is it like, hey, you're extending life? That's not good for business. I don't know. But where's the resistance on that? Well, let me start there. Are there any industries or groups that you find the most resistance from?
There's always detractors,
Sure,
right?
sure, yeah.
In any industry. And you look, when you're innovating and you're out in front, you're going to take some arrows. You know that,
Sure.
right? And if you're not prepared for that in the beginning, then
that's a great point. Yeah.
you really are. Look at Elon, right? That guy's taking arrows and he's forged, but look what he's done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's done some incredible things.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And a lot of pioneers have done that and been in that position. And so we know that. You stay true to the mission, try to be responsible in the way that you set expectations and you represent things. And you try to address the detractors, to the best that you can, but you don't let it be a distraction from you. Scientists have different views on how to do things, right?
I was going to ask that
You'll
too.
get guys that'll tell you epigenetics are 99.9% reliable. And then you'll get guys that'll, like getting attorneys to agree on something, right? Half the room will agree this way and the other half will agree the other way. You have to decide what you think is best, what the data's showing is the most accurate or at least the most reliable at that point in time, and go with it. But I don't listen to a lot of the resistance and the detractors.
You're right. You're forging a path, right? You're pioneering a path. So there's going to be people saying, well, this can't be or that can't be, or, you're snake oil on this or whatever. But there's a lot of people I know that have gone through your program from the last event so far that are swearing by it, that feel like they can feel a difference in their performance, if you will, or their the one person in particular had some chronic back issues that have slowly started to resolve, post treatment. So it is extremely encouraging, and it's really interesting to see kind of what the future of it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of good, that comes of it, and we see a lot of that anecdotal evidence with patients all the time, right? We do a lot of testing, so we test for inflammatory biomarkers and genetic, molecular, physiological. I want objectivity in the data, because if I ask you, Jamie, how you feeling on Monday? And you say, man, Greg, not great. My back's sore. I'm tired. I don't feel great. But I don't ask you any other questions. And then on Thursday, I ask you how you feel. And you say, you know what? I'm feeling a lot better. Things are, my back pain's gone away. I've got more energy. I'm a little more focused. What I didn't know was that over the weekend, you went to a family reunion.
Right,
you ate a bunch of bad food. Maybe you drank some beers, you just had a good time and saw family. And so on Monday morning, you didn't feel great.
Right.
But you cleaned up. You started eating clean, going to the gym, working out, hit the sauna a few times, and by Thursday, life was back. You were sleeping better,
Sure.
And you felt great on Thursday.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's the subjectivity in healthcare that we don't always know, right? And patients are not always compliant in telling us subjectively what's going on and giving you the whole story. So the more objectivity in the data that you can get, the better, right? Because the data won't lie at the end of the day.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so we like that, right? And when you're in a new field and in an industry that's nascent like this, you want as much of that as possible, right?
How much competition is there in your particular? Is this getting bigger? Is Costa Rica littered with guys like you and companies like yours?
No,
right now?
We're actually the only licensed facility in the entire country of Costa Rica.
Wow.
There are people, like Cancun and Colombia and Mexico and BVI, I think, some other places that are doing some version of it. But to our knowledge, the way we go about it with the aging and longevity component, there's nobody else really doing what we're doing and taking the approach that we're taking. You can go a lot of places and get 100 million stem cells.
Sure.
And they've done some good, right? And they'll gladly, but we'll try to talk you out of that. We really want more of a programmatic approach and be able to work with you on functional medicine and nutrition and sleep and things like that.
Yeah.
Because again, I do believe wholeheartedly that these are puzzle pieces. And if we can get the best possible return on that investment, then we have to, and some people are already there, right?
Sure.
A lot of these members, the GoBundance members, they're really proactive and they're advocating for their own health, right? And that's awesome. That's why I think a lot of them have had good outcomes.
Yeah.
But if you're unhealthy and your lifestyle habits haven't been great when you get to us, then there's a lot of nurturing and coaching that we need to do to make sure that you get you're in the best possible condition to get a good outcome or a sustainable outcome. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
And it's true in orthopedics, and it's true in longevity. And, this longevity industry's crazy, right? I mean, there's people who believe that it will be the biggest industry with the most growth, maybe of any industry, that's ever come before it. And that's a big statement when you're thinking about technology and
lifespan, right? I mean, you're talking about the one thing that we always say, hey, you can make more money, you can make more friends, you can't make more time, right? But to some extent, you can make more, youthful time, at least, right?
Today, yeah, I think so, right? And you got guys, this is awesome too. Guys like Bezos and these billionaire guys are throwing tons of money. Altos Labs is coming in, and they're doing some really, really advanced research. And we saw what it did for electric cars. We saw what it did for space, right? And it'll probably do it for longevity too. So I love that, and it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a collaborative and a combined effort and everybody to do their piece. But
I love it.
I think it's ultimately at the end of the day, humanity wins. And if we keep that in the windshield, that's what's important, I think.
I love it. Wow. Incredible. How do people learn more about you, your company? Is there a place you can direct them? LinkedIn account, website, anything like that?
Yeah, we're all over the internet like everybody else, right? It's RMI-international.com is the website.
Okay.
And
if somebody goes there, I mean, is this something where it's as simple as fill out a form to work with you? I mean, I know there's, they're going to have to go through a process, I'm assuming, but what does that look like if they wanted to come work with you?
So there is a little, email capture and a form on there, right, that we can do. There's a phone number. Typically how it sets up is we want to have a quick consult with someone just to make sure there are no exclusions, right? If you've had cancer in the last 2 years and just some general things like that.
Sure.
But then we get on the phone with one of the docs at RMI, one of the medical team members, and, walk through what it looks like, what your goals are. That's super important when people come, right? I just want to do stem cells is not a great goal, right? But if you're fatigued or you're in pain or you're just whatever your condition is, to really help kind of clarify what the end result is going to look like, so we know what a win is.
Yeah, sure.
Right? I want to know. I want to say, Jamie, these are the 3 things you told me that are most important to you. That's what we're going to focus on, and that's how we're going to measure how successful we are. That's a super big part of the process for me.
Excuse me. Amazing.
So that you come away feeling like, yeah, we hit all 3 of these, or we got 2 out of 3, right? And this is medicine and it's healthcare, and you do the best you can, and most of the time we're spot on, but like anything, you don't always bat 100%.
Well, nobody does.
Nobody does,
1,000, right? Yeah. So, no, I think it's great. Well, Gregory, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you talking through. This is fascinating to me. Again, it's a space that it's almost like sub-mortgage crisis, like, it was all those bankers, but nobody understands the depths of it. It's the same thing now, like stem cells. You hear it all over the place, but nobody understands the depths of it. I don't understand. Like, I know that there's regenerative therapy. I know there's a lot of promise in it. I know that there's extension of life, all of that, but the nitty-gritty, I just honestly was unclear on. So this gave me a lot of clarity. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I hope it would. I didn't see the deer in the headlights look that much, Jamie. So
no, at the end, I was actually, my throat was starting. If you did see a look I was going to grab the water. Something like went in my throat, like, don't cough. But,
no, I'm used to seeing it like at, cocktail parties or PTA meetings when the guy, the poor guy that walks up and asks me, what do you do?
Yeah.
I learned not to say stem cells. Right now, it's like, I try to help people enjoy doing what they love to do for longer and stuff like that.
Let me help you with marketing. What you should be saying when somebody says, "Oh, what do?" You say, "I make people live longer." Then turn and walk away. And I would amp it up a little bit. The beard is good. If you're on YouTube, the beard is good branding. But on top of that, you should look like you're from the future. Because when you say that, right, some sort of black, I don't know, very tight outfit maybe. That sounds, you know what I'm saying. A big collar perhaps, I don't know. And you just say, glasses. With that beard, black glasses. Men in black style.
I love it.
And you simply say, I make people live longer. Turn and walk away.
Walk off.
People will want to know more and more and more about you if that's how you show up in the world. The suit thing, it's not working, man.
All right.
You got to
get rid of it. I'm going with the cape. I'm getting a cape.
Cape is even better. Gregory, again, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All right.